Okay, traders, how are we going there? See who's in. Sorry we didn't get up and running last week. G'day, Pete. I had that spotty talk on last week, so actually doing another one if anyone's interested on Wednesday. I think it's at 12 o'clock, so for an hour or so. They're pretty good. The spotty talks. There's some good information on there if you get into watching them. Oh, share based. So it's not expanded sort of views that we do on, say, your currencies and commodities and your macro view. It's more just localized share based chat. And how are you doing, Pete? You had a good weekend? Who else we got in today? Okay, so I'll just rip into it. I'll just get started. Any questions, feel free to fire them as we go. Put them into the chat, live chat, and I'll answer them as we go along. So welcome to Trade Setup in lockdown here. Welcome to Trade Setup and the live stream. It is the 23rd of November, so getting on the end of the year. Guess we're all hoping for that Christmas rally, which should be interesting. Whether we've had it or not is another thing, but yeah, everyone's waiting for that Christmas rally. We'll see if we can push up to, or back to, where we fell apart from prior to the sell-off, but I think that's going to be a bit of an effort. But then again, you never quite know. It's another month to go. We could easily just keep pushing up, pushing higher, and extending the current rally. But we'll see. Anyone that hasn't joined us before, please take note of what you're seeing on the screen there. It's only general advice, so we're not giving specific advice to anyone. It's just our opinions, what I think is going to happen on different shares that we may have and we're looking at. So, just a general discussion. And feel free to join us at the Twitter in the top left-hand corner, trade_setup. Facebook is on the top right, and then importantly, subscribe to us at YouTube and leave us a like anytime you think something is worthwhile. It'd be much appreciated. So I'll rip into it then. I'll minimize that. Now, I'm guessing you can see the screen okay. See how much we can see. It's probably about here, isn't it? Right, that's okay. So we're not really worried about this far left-hand side of the action. What I'm going to do is, because we weren't in last week and the bits happened, especially in crude oil, I just want to have a bit of a review. We'll go through, spent first half an hour, a bit of a review of what's happening on, your key commodities, your indices, the the S&P, the Dow, the Nasdaq. Look at some European stuff. Not so much the Hang Seng, because it's only sort of, we attack that intraday, but we'll have a look at, like I said, commodities, gold. I know there's a few gold bulls around, which are not too happy at this stage. What's happening on gold, what we see on gold, obviously been linked to the US dollar, and throw around a few opinions on what could happen into the dollar going forward. And then just open it up to a couple of shares that we're looking at, put in anything that you want to have a bit of a look at too, and then we'll go from there. So we'll start off, we've got on the screen, as I maximize that, we've got on the screen is the US dollar index. And we've spoken about this for a long time now. The dollar is pretty much the key driver with stimulus. Every time they lob out a bit of stimulus, I think this year has been $4.5 trillion. It's 20. I think it was 25% of the current debt was all in just this year in the US. So that's really been pressuring that US dollar down. We saw that initial, the sell-off, the initial spike on the back of when the market started to fall apart, and that's your safe haven bid. Then all of a sudden, we start to see sellers start to pile in as the story goes that, you start whacking in more and more stimulus into the market. That's essentially devaluing the dollars. You're just pumping in more supply into a limited demanded market into the US dollar. So that's why you just got this sell-off since then, as we need more and more stimulus. And I think we're coming to that. We've been in that zone now where we are sort of oscillating off this low at around 92 up to around 94, 93 and a half, 94. These couple of highs just push through 94. As we're coming to that point now, we've been waiting for the last probably 6 months. The market's been anticipating more stimulus. It just hasn't come. There's been that argy-bargy between Trump and his team and the Democrats of what they're going to do. Now that we've got elections, we thought it would be a clear-cut case of if Biden gets in, then it's basically is going to. It was pointing towards back then. It was pointing towards a clean sweep for Democrats, and then that means more stimulus, so on. But it wasn't, and it's far from it. The elections, supposedly, depending on what you read, are far from over, and depending on what Trump is saying, is far from over. But it looks like, I guess, he's starting to fail in court. It's not, they get overturned, and they're sticking to a Democrat win, which means that sooner or later he's probably going to have to come to the point he's going to concede, whether he does or not. He wants to concede. I think it's his ego that'll tell him not to. Um, whether it becomes a Democrat win, they still Republicans still, I think, retain majority. So any further stimulus is going to be hard come by. It's going to be hard fought, and I don't know. I'm guessing Democrats are just pointing towards higher stimulus. Big package to come through to support the growth. Maybe the Republicans are saying no because we have got, we still do have vaccines. So that should help. If that comes about before the end of the year, then that should put us on the the road to recovery, sorry. And then the markets or jobs get back to where they were. But I still think there's a major issue with the labour market in the US. They're not going to get back to where they were. I think there's been in lockdown off and on for a long time now. We're even talking about lockdowns now. So there's still a lot of pressure. You've got, on one side for the bears, it's the lockdowns in the US, further lockdowns in the US. What does that mean for the labour market and crimping growth and economic recovery? And then on the flip side, we've got a vaccine. Yet that's just all talk still for now. How long that's going to take, there's hopes that it gets through by the end of the year, but we'll see. Either way, if it doesn't, if that takes on, people have got their stimulus to hang your hat on again. So I'm really struggling to see what could happen to the market. Nothing seems to be turning it. I thought we would. We've had a bit of bearish action. I still believe that it's going to come out of left field. I don't know why or what. It's not stimulus, the lack of stimulus that's going to send the market down, because it should have by now. Maybe it's not as big a package that's going to send the market down, but I don't think that's going to happen either, because we've started to factor in that, and the US dollar's been bouncing around on the back of that. The fact that we're heading back out into support is not saying that the market's not expecting a big package. They're starting to expect probably more stimulus. Now, I think this US dollar, I'm seeing that as, the uptrend is still intact. It's right down on support. It may flush it out, but I'll ultimately think that it's going to be, that zone is going to hold. Whether it does or doesn't is a different story. Now, that's a daily chart. We've still got this lower high coming to play. Whether it's going to be a bit of this, I don't think we're going to get that kind of price action where it's, we're going to get that another extension down, that bigger extension down and through, and say down to 89 or 90. I would think that's going to be on the back of, and only on the back of, another massive stimulus package, and then that free for all in the US dollar, and just massive more supplies of dollars into the system, which I don't believe is going to happen. I still think it's going to be a limited package of some sort. You even saw, I don't know, I call him Munchkin, Munchkin. I can't say it. He was asking for money back from the Fed, so they're looking at, I guess, aiming that to particular areas, not just this one blanket cover of stimulus, but the more, I guess, refined stimulus or targeted stimulus to the economy, to people or areas that need it, not just throwing it left, right, and centre at the market. So I don't think the package, if that's the case, the Republicans are going to say, no, we don't think that there should be this massive blanket for another $1 trillion of stimulus. We should be targeting it on smaller amounts, but targeting it properly to people that need it, to businesses that need it to continue to grow and support the economy. So that, to me, would suggest that we're going to see, we might get these spikes through, but I would suspect that the dollar's going to be bought up or supported around this zone. Now, if that's the case, what does that mean to things like, I guess, especially gold? Now, gold should be, with this weakness coming to the US dollar, gold just should be supported. And what we're seeing is weakness into US dollar. It's down, US dollar's down support, whereas gold is hanging in there, only just hanging in there. So if gold starts to break down, you would think that if the US dollar starts to break down, you would think that gold starts to find some support in here. And I think this is a key level for gold at the moment, bit of a line in the sand in the 850 zone. If it can't hold up here, it's going to roll. Okay, and it's not, like I said, I don't believe it's going to be that safe haven trade into the US dollar. Into gold. Traditionally, everyone's thinking it's a safe haven buy, but it's not. It's just linked to that, like in the old currency, the Aussie, the euro. It's all linked to that US dollar movement. So if the US dollar heads south, we should get a bit of a bounce on gold. But I don't think this gold's suggesting that the way it's sort of hovering down this support, it's suggesting that the US dollar is going to bounce, and we're going to find some pressure. Okay, so but if US dollar pushes through support, that's where we should get gold lifting off this zone here around at 1850. But either way, it's been held down. We've got this big rally, big sell-off, and all this when that US dollar was banging around, all this action being linked to in gold, being linked to the US dollar movements. We've got that press up here to 1863, rejected quite savagely, straight back down to the lows into the support zone at 1850. And we've got a lower high that's still been pressuring the market into that support zone. It did get bought off a couple of days ago. We are reacting, the buyers are starting to react up and off that zone. But like I said, it's whether or not, who's outweighing who and what's the view on the US dollar. If, like I was saying, if that US dollar starts to hold that support zone and starts to lift, at least start to oscillate, we might find that gold gets supported and starts to oscillate between, an offer zone and a bid zone. But I think if we start getting a hard push up in the US dollar, that's where you would expect gold to start coming into pressure and potentially breaking down. Now, if it breaks down, what does that mean? Where are we heading to? We could have a decent sell-off down to, back below $1,800. So really, for me, on gold, it's still up in the air until we start getting a bit of a move in the US dollar, until we start getting that break out of that range, either way, up or down. And that I still think has got to do with that the stimulus coming out of the US. Now, looking at crude to me is different. It's a different scenario. We'll just break that down, and we're on a daily chart here. We'll go down to, looks a bit nicer on, so we'll go to 2-hourly chart. The trend has been up, and that's probably more based around coming out of lockdown and economies getting back to normal. And I think that's going to be purely based on what's happening with vaccines. I think we're looking past everything for demand to increase, because whether or not US go completely in the lockdown and they really start to get hurt with lockdowns, but I think they'll be racing to get out a vaccine of some sort and stay away from further restrictions, lockdowns, and start to come back out. So I think the crude oil is actually looking at that, it's looking past all that, looking at vaccines to support the economy and the labour market in the US, and then I guess essentially globally as well. We'll sort of see that either way. We've got a channel, if you can see, channel across the highs. You've got the little resistance zone across the highs and support zone across the lows. Here, the market's holding higher levels, so I expect it to be really bouncing around between that zone if it's just going to gradually edge its way higher. Now, if it starts to struggle, we might find a bit of a struggle up at 42.60, 65, 67, or 42.70, which is this previous high, and there's a little minor high back from November. Sorry, it started November. If we start to hold, it doesn't mean that we can't press down and start to find another high low back towards the lower end of this channel. Okay, so there's no reason we can't press down and start to lift again, and then break through, and then start to, go to the top end of that channel. But I guess where it's all coming to do what happens with, I think it's down to really what happens with not so much the US dollar, because it's starting to decouple. Even though a weaker US dollar should help crude prices push higher, but even a stronger US dollar is not really being met, because it's more demand, supply and demand, because supply can be capped whenever they want. They can change the supply on it, but they can't really change demand. And if it's looking like that they've been cutting supplies, and now we're starting to get that potential lift in demand for crude, then that should be supportive of prices, or higher prices anyway. Copper is, it's just a rocket. It really has held up quite nicely the whole time we've been looking at it, been any sort of hard sell-off with a rally into the US dollar, and that potential for lockdowns to crimp demand, it gets bought straight back up again. So recently it's had this, from down here at around 283, down around this low, even at this low once it started. When was that? Let's go back to a daily actually. You can see from the sell-off, we've been bouncing back really strong. I think that probably on the back more of China demand lifting, and they've come out first really of any lockdowns. They hit it hard and fast. Demand from China is lifting. I think everyone's factoring in that demand. Now we are right up into a zone. You can see from December 17, and then right back in, was it June 2018? Last time we're up here. Okay, so to me is going to be a major zone that I wouldn't expect copper prices to pierce straight up and through. I would expect some sort of reaction off that level, right? And you'll see that's in the daily chart's not really extended as such, but it is, compared to what's happening, that leg down, extension up, leg down, extension up. We're more extended than not, and that most recent leg up, which is off this support at around 303, or say around that $3 mark, 3 even. It's extended. We're holding higher lows. We are up into that zone. So if we we'll go back to a 2-hourly chart. Actually, we'll go back to just an hourly chart. You'll see we are extended, and we're into a zone where I would expect something from sellers, even some buyers to lock away buyers, whether it's in this leg, just this leg only, or longer term buyers that bought it down here that maybe sat through that. We're up into a zone where it probably adds, you would expect some sort of pressure. Not so much from sellers diving into the market, but you might get some short sellers coming in. They wouldn't be sitting on shorts for too long, but it's more the buying pressure. That's going to slow down into this zone. And if the buying pressure starts to slow down, we start to peter out there, then, and you can see the momentum. Last time we're up, we start to roll. We're up, same sort of buying pressures, lifted and lifted and lifted, and we're extended into that area. Momentum you would expect to start to turn. And so it's just really any buyers left on the sidelines to come in. I wouldn't expect as many. So that means that anyone that's long is going to have to think about potentially taking profits and booking some gains into copper. Where that takes us to is a different story. I mean, that could be a short-term sell-off, or it could be a longer-term sell-off. We might see a deeper reaction. So really, this level through here, as long as that holds up, it's around 317. We might just get, this kind of action again, like we saw before, until we get buyers starting to step in. I mean, maybe that's going to happen, and then we lift up and through, and we start to test through the top end of that range, those highs, previous highs, major highs on the daily chart. But if we start to get some serious action on the downside, more like that, and we start to lift slowly off that support, that's where I think we could draw that. I think we could, draw it up properly, slam down and through and take out that anchor level. We get more of a major lower high coming into play. If that major lower high comes into play after potentially trading into that support zone, or even trading through, more likely if we just start to slam down and we trade through that zone, and then we edge our way back up. So what you don't want to see if you're a bull is that big sell-off through a zone, and we start to edge back and through, back above, because that to me is just, there's still some selling pressure, some residual selling pressure holding it down, and buyers are putting in a good effort. So if you're a seller there and you want to sell up here, you're probably just going to put offer. You're going to let the market extend a little bit and maybe sell some. You're not going to be just sitting on the offer. You might just chip into it as the market's rising. Okay, but if it starts to fall apart and buyers start to run out of steam, at a zone potentially, say we get to around 320 or so, then more sellers start to pile in. Buyers are not going to stand in their way, and I would expect there's going to be a bigger sell-off. Okay, and that's where we might get that change in trend, that trend up, and that bigger reaction off that key resistance zone on the daily. Okay, so you just got to watch. It's really all about price action. What happens if we grind lower and we start to, same price action as before, we start to hold some higher levels, we start to find some buyers off key minor levels anyway, and we remain in this trend up. I know my charts are probably a bit of a mess at this stage, but let's just make that a bit bigger. We'll just make it a bit bigger. There we go. That probably be a bit more sense. So that's your support zone. If we start to hold that and we hold a higher level, then it's just continuation. It's a continuation pattern. But if we start to break down and we test down to this level, even through it, it's a different scenario, and that would put more pressure on the buyers that are stacked up, not just in this leg, but you go all the way back. Buyers will start to be having to reassess. What are we going to do? We're going to have a little minor pullback and this continuation, or a bigger pullback could be on the cards. What do I want to do? Do I want to take some risk off the table and reassess it from the sidelines, or halve my risk to the market, lock away some gains, and then watch to see if it's a deeper correction? If we start to hold another lower high, I might have to edge out the whole lot. Okay, so that's what I'm seeing and it's mainly because we're up into this key level on copper. So we've gone through what I really want to look at with the major indices, major commodities that we're looking at. Aussie dollar, so we looked at the US dollar. Let's just look at euro. So this supports the US dollar potentially been down on some support where it's expected to bounce. Is on the flip side, you've got anything linked, not so much gold, but your currencies. Your euro seems to be up, up a bit of resistance there, where it makes sense that we could get a bit of a sell-off. We still got higher levels holding, so we've got support through here, more a low, higher level in here, another little minor support through this zone here. So it is holding on the way up, but you can see that we broke up here, tested it, failed. Okay, we didn't quite get there. We got to an inside level before we failed again and retested down at this zone at 116.13. Then reacted all the way back up, took out a lot of levels here before we reacted off it again. But recently, we've reacted down 1, 2, 3 times. And if we're focusing in on this level, okay, so this leg up here, we just broke through. You can see that's higher lows, higher lows, higher lows all the way up. So if we're taking that into account, that leg up is broken. So what are we going to get here? A little minor double top in here. And we're going to start to fail. We don't know just yet. It's early stages just yet, but I would suggest that we're going to have to hold 1878. So if we start to hold this little inside zone, 1878, and we take out 1850, then I think we're going to start attacking 1817 and potentially lower. And that would probably play into the hands of a stronger US dollar. But we'll see. I mean, that could just plow straight up and through. I mean, anything's possible, obviously. But I think if you start to factor in which markets are lining up and what they're saying, that to me is saying we could be up in a bit of resistance. We might find that any buyers are going to start to lock away some gains. But we've been wrong in the past on that. Aussie dollar, I thought Aussie might come under a bit of pressure today, but it's still happy to keep heading higher. As long as that US dollar holds in support, but we've got a zone up at 73.40, say, which reacted off there once. We've got this push down, reacted back up. We pushed back up, reacted off again, reacted just below that again. We're up at there now. So what happens? Do we back off from that level? We'll go to a 4-hourly chart. But you can see this is a key lower high previously, back when we got back in September. We got that sell-off. Held, we're back up there now, so we've tested 1, 2, potentially 3, potentially this is the 4th time we're going to test. Are we going to go through it? Now, if we go through, you want to see what happens on the retest. If we go through and we pull back and retest and hold, we're looking at higher prices. Okay, so if we do something like this, you'll be looking to see what happens on that retest to see if we get those higher prices. But if it's just a big flush, we might get a bit of a flush through, bounce through it and then straight back down to the zone. Then you want to see what happens on that move, which I would suspect that we could get a lower high. Okay, so that's the Aussie. Like I said, there's still some higher lows holding into it, but we're getting it react off that zone a few times now. So sooner or later, the pressure's going to have to give either way. Now the pound's more linked to what's happening. It's just broken through, so that's interesting. What's happening with Brexit. Now that move up there now is quite strong, to be honest. I haven't looked at it today, but I was expecting maybe we find a bit of selling pressure up here. Maybe this is a flush. It's too early, so I wouldn't buy it here, wouldn't touch it. I mean, it could keep going up, so be it. But what I'd want to see is what happens on the pullback. What happens on the pullback? We start getting supported at higher prices, then it's worth a buy and looking for it extending those highs into new highs. Okay, but at this stage, we still got a key level up here. It's sort of in that no man's land. I wouldn't buy it, probably wouldn't sell it because it is, it has pushed higher. You just have to wait and see what happens at coming price action. So you can see this leg up here, holding, broke down, and then we just play it straight through. So the price action is a bit, I wouldn't say strange, but it is a bit mixed at the moment. That pullback there, you would have thought maybe we're going to get some lower highs coming to play. We go to a deeper pullback, but really there's a lot of news around just affecting the markets at the moment. And traders are taking their turns betting on which news is going to move the markets. And US yen, Japan's not open. It's a bank holiday in Japan today, and that went sideways all Friday sessions. That did absolutely zero. So that's probably going to be more and well and truly linked to the US dollar than anything else. Right, so any questions there, guys? Anything just quickly that we want to look at there? I'll get into some shares now. Just go through a couple, and then if there's no questions, we'll obviously finish it up. If there's something you want to look at, whack into the chat, and yeah, we'll go from there. So firstly, I'll start off with MVP. This is something we've had. I've had it personally. It did okay. I didn't get this leg up here, which I don't know why. I just really caught napping, I guess. If we go back to a weekly chart, we had this run up here, got stopped out with this pullback, which is fine. It pulled back, started to settle, key higher low on the weekly, and that was that. I think that was, where were we in February, March? So February, March was this little sell-off. It really didn't move too much. The market had already come off a bit by then. CCA in TNT, CCA, Pete. Have a look at that. TNT. All right, so this move up here. Sorry, that's not the sell-off. The sell-off was here. It got smashed. Was looking good, rallied up, and then we got this big sell-off when the market's melting down, cleaned out a lot of traders, but it hasn't done a lot since. It would have been nice to get in here. It didn't grab that. We get another chance now, and I think it's starting to hold the MAs. We finally got the daily. It's starting to lift. We've got a key zone at 5 that's held after this sell-off. So that sell-off, you go back to the weekly, I probably would say that's the high low in here. We flushed it out, bounced straight back again. So really, this level through say 450 is the zone, and then we held a higher level at 5 quite nicely. We're starting to lift now. Whether that gets the head of steam, we start to get this kind of price action. We just grind up. We really start to accelerate on the upside. It's not getting in the hand yet. That leg up there, okay, fine. I would expect a couple of days of work around 6, but I want to see it hold 6 if we can. This $6 level, if we can hold in here, that would be great. Okay. We hold in here and we hold that level. We sit straight on top of the MAs and we start to get some volume coming. You can see this little sell-off here. We've got a bit of volume, but it held the previous day's low, which was from the 19th. We held it the next day on the 20th, and then today we are positive. We're only up 2%, but we haven't got a massive amount of volume that's coming today. But either way, if we can just chop around and do something like this, we chop around here, we hold it, and we start to lift. We get some sort of acceleration. We take out a lower high. If we get a clear lower high to take out, then I think that's worth the entry. You just got to be careful if you're going to play MVP. I think great story. What is it? Penthrox is their main product that's been released all over the world. It's been doing really, really well. More and more countries take it up. It's in Europe. It's everywhere. The big one is obviously the US, but you probably find that the US companies are blocking it. The bigger pharmaceuticals blocking it. They'll have their own product to sell to their own country. So they were waiting for the FDA approval. Got held up. They got some things that they had to tick off. A few different bits and pieces they had to tick off. I don't know where it stands now at the moment with the FDA approval, but in the meantime, they open up market share and open up different avenues for not delivery. What do you call it? Sales in different areas. So they've done really, really well. So I think from that perspective, fundamental perspective, it's supported. The price action is looking really good. If you start to lift, you just got to be wary that it's not a massive amount of stock on offer. Even when it does some volume, starts to lift in volume, it's only done 180,000 today, not a massive amount. I don't know if it's the story is big, no one's really watching it, no one really cares. But I think the stock itself is doing doing great things. The company's doing good things. It's looking quite good. We're looking good for another rally, and that could potentially, if we get a bit of a run on, and we test and we hold 850, you might need a bit of a pullback, but I think that's going to be your first real port of call where there could be a few issues. I think this would take us through 7, we extend through 7, and we just continue to have a minor pullback, gets met with some more buying. We'll see what happens around 850. If it gets through there, then you're looking back above around to the $11 mark. So that looks to me pretty good, pretty handy. The only other stocks we have at the moment is PMV, still going quite well. We've taken a partial on that. If I remember, it's around 295 or thereabouts. So we're above that now. Stops are letting the stop right a bit, just around that 275 mark. I think by this price action, it looks like it could easily get through the highs at 307. We could get through that today into the close, and then you're looking up towards previous highs at through 325. We'll go to the weekly. These previous highs at 328, thereabouts. So if we can push through there. The weekly is looking a bit more extended than obviously the daily. The daily's been quite controlled, this move up, and I expect that to continue. But the weekly, if we get that break, it'd be interesting to see what happens around the previous highs back from February, just before the sell-off. Stock's looking great. That structure, if you take out this low, that big sell-off, you take out that low, it's got a high low through, say, $1.75, then up at 2. That extension, if you take it from low to high, now what is that low? 127, highs up to around 279. 127, 279 is $1.50 thereabouts. At $1.52 is 350. It could easily pressure and extend to $350 and beyond. So we'll just see how that goes. AAC is another one we got. Looking good. It was doing not too much once we got in, then extended through $1.20, pulled back on Friday, which is not the world's best because the weekly looks like it's rejected that zone, but I still think the weekly's turning up. That's fine. Daily's still looking good. We can hold off this 150. If we hold around here where we are, roughly around here, might spend a couple of days and we push back up through highs at $1.22 and we start attacking these highs back above $1.30. I'll split that out. WBC is looking great. I think that's lagged. We'll go to here. WBC, we're long from 19, give or take, just above 19, I think it was. Yeah, about 1903, 04. Thereabouts. I can't remember, but either way, it's going in the right direction. I think it's lagging. And if you look at this sell-off here, we put in a base through here, we extended, we sold off again, we put in a higher low or a higher base at 16. So I think this is the leg up. I still think we could extend through this high. Was it just above 2007? I think we could get up to 20. If we get to 21, that would be great. A little bit more of extension, but if you look at it compared to CBA's gone on through the previous lower high, NAB has 2, and ANZ, I would think that this was underperforming on Westpac. Okay, and that's what I'm looking for, just that extension through this low, 2019, extend through there, get to say 20, 21, 21 and a half, thereabouts. But we'll be looking for a partial sooner rather than later on that. But I think it still looks really good. What was the other ones we had? Triple G, it's just got into a bit of a lockdown. They've come out with news. I think it's capital raising, which is a bit of a killer because we only just got into that. So lately, traditionally, a cap raise is always going to be below the prices, generally below the current price to entice people, obviously. They entice traders to buy it below, and then it comes back down to that price because that's fair value, supposedly. Recently, it hasn't worked that way. It's actually, say that gets, I don't know where the prices are. It's looking at, we've got, I think, last traded price is around 2029. Say it comes in at 25, 26. The cap raise. Lately, the market's just been going up anyway. It's sort of going against the trend or going against the grain and still heading higher. Because I think people are looking past the price and looking towards, okay, they've got cash. We're all cashed up and it's looking good. Either way, that share price is heading higher. The trend is up. Weekly's not too bad. Well, actually, weekly's pretty good. And the daily, we just need to take out that 32 and trade up towards that 35 mark. It might just, you can see there's quite a range. It's stuck in a bit of a channel. These lower levels, lower level. And we're looking up, if we can look up through 35, that would be handy. We entered it, was it 31, thereabouts? ASM was the only other one, got in that on Friday. That's going well, at 402. It's now 420. So I think that's a cracker. That looks really good. So not much to talk about. That's on the way up. I mean, the weekly's looking great. Just go to all. Actually, we'll just make this better. ASM. That's all the data you can see. Okay, bit of a sell-off when to come online. Press it up. It's held higher level. Press it up. Again, holding a higher level, and it's just up at these highs. So we just want to see get through there, finish above that in the coming days. Even today, if we can finish above 422, we're at 420.21, so that's only a couple of cents away. It's pushed up through, got the 25 today, so it's taken out the highs. It's traded to new all-time highs. I think that is really constructive of a higher level. So if you take a measured move of this leg up and take it from this, say, the lower round 3, it's looking around 5. So it's got another 80 or so cents to go. If that's the case, if that's where we're going to before we have a next move, bit of a pullback. If we get out of hand and it starts to really kick on and we get that accelerated move up, it could easily go through 5. So I think definitely on the right side for this one. All right, let's get into it then. I'll get up my little drawing tool. We've got CCA, TNT, and IHL. We'll do those. All right. So CCA, that I've still got some of that from way up here. I sort of left it, but I think they're looking a lot better now. The weekly's not looking too crash hot, but it's going in the right direction. So if that's getting accumulated on the way up, I think the story is getting better. For CCA, they've changed management, who, from all I know, was a bit seedy, a bit dodgy. They've got rid of it. They're going in the right direction. They've consolidated, getting funded, and they've got some good things on the cards, from what I understand. I don't know the story fully, but that price action is reflecting some more positivity into the stock, as opposed to the previous sell-off where it just got hammered down here. And that was on the back of the stupidity they went through with the previous management. Didn't know what he's doing, really. Well, it comes down to just doing stupid things, and whether there's, I don't want to say fraud or anything like that, whether it was something like that, and a lot of people were just unhappy with it, and obviously dumped it. And they had a crypto, it was called Ivy Coin, and that's the reason why we got in. It was looking good. Ivy, bang! It was just really a bit of a farce. Now Ivy's taken a turn. New management there. Someone else bought it out, and I think is getting some really positive things that are happening, so that the actual crypto could be more supported. I don't know whether Change owns some still or not, some tokens, and they could start doing well from that. I'm not sure, but either way, their business, the underlying business, is looking a lot better. So long story short, I think it's going in the right direction. You look at that daily chart, as long as it doesn't break back down through 12.5, it's looking positive. I think this leg up, if we can get up through little minor highs at 16.5, we're looking towards 20, and look at breaking through 20. And I think if that starts, you can look at the rallies. That rally up here is accompanied by volume. This rally here, volume again. It did spike up, gapped up here, spiked straight up on some really good volume too. So it's getting supported with some volume. On the pullbacks, this pullback here, volume really petered out. So the pullbacks, it's getting no volume, so no one's really getting out. You got obviously some little traders, some small punters are looking to buy in that, and they get squeezed back out again, but then it's getting soaked up and supported. So as long as that volume keeps doing the same thing, we start to lift on the back of volume with some good volume spikes, then I think that's going to be only a matter of time before it starts to build, and it builds momentum. And if it starts to build momentum, you start to get those rallies are harder, okay, and the pullbacks are shallower, and that's what we'll be looking for. A2M will do, Ben. TNT, we had a bit of a chat about this in the Discord channel this morning. It looks good. I think they had 40. It was when we were talking about it, 40 cents was a massive offer, and they were just stacking the offer there at 40. Whether they were trying to hold it down, I don't know, but you don't stack the offer for no reason, unless it's just a retail. But there was nothing behind that. Okay, and once it chewed through that 40 level, I think it opens it up a bit, but you can still see, look at the depth here. You can still see they're loading up in the offer a bit, but bids are far outweighing. So that could be just trying to get out of hand, and they know that if you're trying to set a position, okay, you're a bigger trader, you're trying to set a bigger position because you think it's going to $1, whatever your reasoning, you don't really want it to get out of hand, so you're going to stack it a few levels back, a few levels up, just to keep anyone that's looking to buy going, look, there's enough volume there. It looks like there's a lot of sellers there, and it's generally aimed at retail because retail might look at it, go, well, there is some decent offers there. I'll just stay here. I won't buy it at market. I won't hit out at the offer and potentially trigger some other people to hit out the offer and start to lift it faster than what, just someone who's trying to accumulate faster than what they want. So if they start to load up in the offers a bit, they can keep it from getting out of hand. You might get, rather than people hit the offer, they go on the bid. Okay, they might go, oh, look, if it pulls back to 40, I'll buy it. Pull back to 39.5, I'll buy it. But it just gets that momentum. It takes the heat out of that rally. Okay, but either way, it got through 40. I think it's looking really good. The momentum is definitely on the upside. Okay, you've got inside levels holding. It's clear. We don't really need to draw it up. Good acceleration up here. The good thing, when it went into pullback mode, it wasn't really a pullback. It was just consolidating sideways. And you got this little anchor here. Got through that anchor, didn't go anywhere really. Before we started to lift again on this green candle, we start to get some good volume come in. High low, that was a beautiful high low, and that was a great entry to go long. And you saw that because when you're looking at the entry, you know it's a good entry when you get confirmation. You get straight after the market starts to accelerate, and that's what we got with these couple of green candles, accelerated higher. So it's not you that's the only one that's looking at it. So it gives you faith in that kind of a setup. So I'll draw it because I think that's a cracking setup to take note of. It really is something to, if you for different setups, if you can take note of it and start to look through your price action to see what's happening. That you got this little high low here. You've got the market started to edge down. You got a level through here, which is holding. Then we held essentially that zone through there, and then you broke up to the upside. So really, at this stage here, you know which way the market's heading. It's not heading down. Buyers are starting to go through. So they're just chewing up the sellers, okay? And if you were looking to sell, you wouldn't be putting in an offer at market. You wouldn't be hitting the bid. If you saw those couple of green candles, you just leave it, okay? Unless you're trying to hold the market down, of course. If you're trying to hold the market down, you're long-term bullish either way. So if you were thinking after this action here, I want to get out, I want to book some gains, and you started to see this kind of price action, I don't want to, lack of a better word, you're stupid to go and sell, put a limit offer at market or a limit into the market at the current offer, because that's conducive of a move higher. So you just want to get a better price. You just let it go, get a better price. If it starts to look extended like up here, then you're more inclined to sell into that, okay, when you've got a better price, all right? So long story short, that is a cracking little entry. You can see here, breakout through the highs, your stops below, it's a higher low, it's working off the MAs, everything's looking good. MAs have gone from expanding, contracting, you can see they've come in, starting to expand again. So the distance between is starting to expand, it's getting bigger, all right? So it's going in the right direction, expanding higher, that's what you want. You don't want to go and come under any pressure when you're long, and it's the same flip side for shorts. You don't want to be put under pressure, so your entries are prime, you're not wasting your time in the market, holding a bad position. You're minimizing your time in the market, you expose it to the market, and you're trying to maximize your gains. That's the idea with these kind of setups and buying what we call on the right hand side on the shoulder. The shoulder is, that's what I call a shoulder, a higher low or a lower high. So you're buying on the shoulder, you're selling on the shoulder, because that to me is the prime time. It minimizes your time in the market and maximizes your gains. Okay, so I mean, that's a cracker. That's looking good. It's going in the right direction. And we're starting to get this price action now playing out. It's quite clearly, it's a bit of a breakout, gone through 40. So it's taken out the most recent lower high off a higher low, all looking good. So you're looking for basically a push up through 44 to start attacking for, I think it's 44, 43. Starting to attack those highs, which don't be surprised if we get there today. Okay, so that's a cracker. If you're long that, you're on the right side. If you're looking to buy, you probably should have bought it at around, the break through that high you should have bought it basically at 40, on the break of 40, or even you bought it at 40 once it traded 40 today, and then your risk is stay at 34. But either way, you're up. You're up 0.5 cent, or you're up a lot more if you bought it in here, you bought it back here. So from there, it's just where do you want to tighten your risk up to? I would suggest that if you bought it here and you're going to get stopped out, if it comes back down and trade below 34, something's wrong, okay? it's maybe working a double top off here, looking to squeeze out a lot of more people. But either way, I would think, for me, I would rather be out reassessing than staying in and taking some heat. IHL, if you're long, not so much today. For me, I wouldn't buy that today. I probably wouldn't have bought it any of the last few days, which I didn't. I was been looking at it. I would rather buy it around the 9 cent mark now. I think this is one I put up on the last Spotty talk. I'm pretty sure I was talking about IHL, and it was somewhere around, when was the talk? It was a week ago. So somewhere in here. And that to me was looking like it was going to really hold up a nice high low. Okay. It's last Monday, Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday. So it was this candle here. The very next day was really the buy through 9 cents. You could have bought it because you're coming off, if you can see, if you've been listening to me for a while, you should see what I'm looking at. These are the important things. You've got that level. Okay, we come down. So at that time there, you don't know if it's going to go further down or not. When we start to hold, these levels again and again, it's not so much there. It's actually sold into that level. The very next day it held up, but it took out this high and this high on that. Even though it's a red candle day, it was a negative day. Intraday, it was up for the session on that candle there, up for the session, but it did break through some levels that you really want to take note of. We broke through 9 cents, and it comes off holding, what was it, about 8 cents, 7.7 thereabouts. So you can see there, we're starting to show some signs of breaking to the upside, all right? And then key, this is just what we spoke about in the last, it was holding around 8 cents. So it held, tested, held, kept holding at a higher level, and we started to break up. So if you took basically an entry at 9 cents, the only real thing you'd be worried about is that 10.5 cent move when it changes from 0.01 to 0.5, yeah. And that happens between 10, 10.5, 11. So you can see that, but it was nothing. In the end, it took off. So if you bought it in there, great. If you bought it earlier, great. It's just a matter of managing your risk. You've got a gap to worry about through here, and that's probably why you got that. It's definitely extended to me. We're extended. What happens from here, whether it consolidates and we go into this kind of action again, where it's a shallow pullback, but maybe somewhere around 11.5, 12, we start to take out these lows. You don't really want that. The deeper the pullback, the less conviction on the upside, okay? So if we got a nice leg up like that, and we start chopping around the top third, like to say, we start holding, consolidating around that top third, that's great. That's a stronger market. The deeper the correction, say it's 50% of that move, then not so great, okay? That means there's less conviction from buyers or holders. Buyers are not willing to hold it. The deeper the correction, less and less people are willing to hold, okay? So that's less and less belief in higher prices. Okay, so it's really about, if you're holding it, what happens from here? We might just go tomorrow, we might just be up and through 14, we don't know. All right, but so just keep an eye on that one. I wouldn't buy it up here. As a caveat to me talking about that, I wouldn't buy it up here because that's all of one leg up. Last leg up, we're extended. Say that move was from 5 up to 9.5, 4.5 cents. If you take it from around 8, even 8, that's 12.5, and we've gone through that level. Okay, I'll just clear all that up. Let me clear all this mess up. It's getting a bit messy in the end. So I just want to show you what you'd be looking at. So that's the higher low. That's a higher low. So if we looking at, we call them volatility projections. Volatility, let's say that word. That's your volatility. That's your leg up. Okay, low to high. You extend it out. You've got somewhere around the 12.5 mark, and we've already just gone through that to 14 today. So maybe this secondary leg up is getting a bit extended. So if you're going to buy an extended market, if you believe in it, great, but you've got to be prepared to take some heat. And I'm not that kind of person. I'd rather buy, see what happens in the pullback. If we get this kind of thing again, then I'm willing to buy. Don't care if it's, I don't care less if it's at a higher price, lower price, or what's happening. It's more got to do with me being in and out of the market, okay? So if this takes, say we get this kind of action, we get a month and a half, or a month of doing nothing, I could make some money with that money. Sorry, I can make some more money with the money I would have gone in. So if I bought it here at 13 and I spend a month doing nothing, taking some heat, even if I'm right down the track, I reckon I can make more use of that money somewhere else while I'm waiting for this to set up than just sitting there and holding it. And you're also looking down the barrel of being completely wrong. This turns around, we head south, and we start to hold lower highs, and we come all the way back down to 5. Then what are you going to do? Because here we've got the only risk if we bought it here. For me, risk has to be around that $7 mark, 7 cent mark, and you're looking at a 50% pullback from where we are now. So it's all got to do with risk management. What are you going to do? Where your stops are going to be? If you trade stops, obviously, I do. And what's happening now? If I'm wrong, and this continues to go high, we go to 20 cents. Don't care. There's other places to put your money as well. It's not the only stock on the ASX. So to me, it's always about managing your risk and how you take that. All right, what's the last one we're going to get into? Actually, A2M. Why doesn't that ever come up? I've got a feeling for some reason it just doesn't like it. Yes, it does. All right. It's heading south. It's just, is it a buying opportunity because of this pullback? So if we go to a weekly chart, and we just have to drill in to see what we think. So this is a kind of process I would go through. I mean, obviously, when Ben's put up A2M, I'd be looking at it thinking, okay, where to? What's happening? It's on the down. You don't want to buy. You don't want to just buy because you think it's a low. You're going to be proven it's a low. Okay, you want to buy on the rise. You don't want to buy on a pullback. Because if you get in the habit of buying on a pullback and you try to go into FX or you do other shit, it's going to crucify you. Okay, so if you can stick to, like this, for instance, that's a pullback. And then we would look to be buying, well, if we can draw that up, buying, even if you're giving up some gains. If you happen to pick the low, great. Okay, if you happen to pick it here and you got on some heat and you still got a better price, even if you bought it here, great, I don't care. But I want to buy here because I don't want to be put under pressure. So I'm buying on the rise. With this consolidates through here and I'm looking for an entry in that zone. Okay, so it's the same sort of thing. What are we going to do from here? There is the fact that we've got through that dynamic support. You know, if you just bought it here, who's to say that we're not going to head back down to $8? All right. We don't know what's going to happen, or who's to say we're not going to go down to here? I mean, there is no, from this chart, there is nothing to say that this leg down has finished. Okay, so if you just go and buy it because you think that's support, I don't trade like that. I would rather see that hold a higher level. Like I said, something like this would be prime. You know, that kind of thing. We've got the market starting to hold up. You've got a level here. You know where your risk is going to be, and it turned out really well. And you buy on the break, especially when it was so close to that dynamic resistance zone, or that, you know, you're looking to come out of contraction into expansion. That's what we're always looking to do. At this stage, well, I wouldn't even put it across there. We're still contracting. All right, so I think it's got a bit of work to do. To me, it has to prove that we're not going to head any lower. So if we go back down to a daily chart, what would I want to see as proof? As proof, I would want to see it's sort of this level through here. To me, you can see push down, pull back, push down, pull back, push down, got to new lows. This is a decent pullback. We sort of come all the way back up to that 15 area. If there was a lot of weakness still in and there was a lot of sellers still to come in, we should have had that decent pullback. We should have, and it's again, it comes down to that rule, the top third, the bottom third, middle third of a move. That's our leg down. We've retraced the majority of that leg, just that little move down, okay? We're not talking about all this leg, we're talking about just this little move down. We've traced quite a bit. So that's a good bounce in my books, right? But it doesn't mean that you go and dive in, because we might, you know, if I can draw that price action, that's the move down, that's that little leg up. We extended it, we've come all the way back. We might just do this and then bang, head south. We don't know yet. Okay, but that leg there, if I can draw them, I'll draw them in a different color. That's the leg up there we're interested in, that leg there, all right? That's the important one. It hasn't proven anything yet, but it's just showing a lack of selling pressure and increase in buying pressure, all right? So really, for me, you don't want to see it through 13. You want to see it consolidate around here. You want to start to see it perk up to 15 again. So if we take it from that leg down, we've just come down. I want to see that bit of a chop around here, okay, and then start to lift. And if we can get through 15, then what happens on your first pullback? If we stay get supported again, then you've got potentially looking for an entry there, okay? And by then, I would expect that those MAs are flattened, meaning that trend has gone from down to sideways at least, and we start to get on the right side of the market. We're starting to get on the side where we expect to move up. It's a higher probability that it's a move up. At the moment, the trend is still down. It's still been held down. There's no reason that it's changed just yet. Nothing's showing me that it's changed. If we start to get this price action, we start to chop around here and hold above 13. Yes, things are starting to change, and we start to see buyers step in. Like I always say, don't be the person that's trying to buy the market to support it. Let everyone else do that. Okay, let everyone else support it. Let them prove to you why you should put your money at risk or why you should put money into the market. Okay, and that's by that. If they start to soak it up there, that's proof we might be getting some of this action at a higher level than the lows. And then, look, I'm looking for a buy entry. Okay, so I hope that helps. We'll probably call it a day there. It's been just on the hour. So any other questions, feel free to send us an email to support@tradesetup.com.au. Otherwise, for now, we'll call it a day. Like I said, if you enjoy what you hear or if you believe me and you're convinced by my rantings, then it'd be great if you can leave us a like and help spread the word. Otherwise, have a great day, and we will see you again next week on Monday. And don't forget, I've got that Spotty talk. If you don't know, I think it's spotty.com.au. Go there and you'll be able to find the times when it's on. I think it's pretty sure it's 12 o'clock I'll be on. So it's on every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at the same times, and have a good old chat. Now, what is it? Spotty, see the light. I can never quite remember. But you'll see it on there. You'll see the talks. Jump on, review some older ones, listen to some older ones, and I'll be on them Wednesday. But it's worthwhile just going through them. They're really, really good with some good talkers on there, not just myself. All right, guys, enjoy your day, and we'll speak again soon.